Hey everybody, it's Skully. I wanted to take the opportunity to make another video about my writing since I hadn't really kind of spoken about it in a while. I had originally made a video talking about Days of Rain, which is the story that I wrote. One of the main characters was inspired by Loki from Marvel, and the other was inspired by Michael Langdon from American Horror Story because they're two characters I really enjoy. But I wanted to talk about the sequel that I have been writing to this story. I've actually been writing a couple different stories that go with it. One of them that I've gotten pretty excited about is called In Depth. That one is that one takes place underwater, and the two main protagonist characters are both females. They both live together in a dorm, and they're going to college together. Iris is the main character. She's a mermaid, and she's got red hair, kind of like Ariel from The Little Mermaid. And she has a crush on a sea monster named Selma. She's in one of her classes with her, and she's nervous about wanting to talk to her. She's kind of had poor luck with dating since she's bisexual. She likes men and women, and she had a abusive ex-boyfriend that she was with. And of course, ever since that relationship didn't work out, she's kind of afraid to kind of get back into this, into the whole dance of dating again. But then one of her friends is, encouraging her to kind of shoot her shot, to kind of, give Selma a chance and maybe try dating again. And, maybe she'll actually be pleasantly surprised to see that maybe this relationship might work better than her last one. And this story is kind of interesting. I really like it not only because it takes place underwater, and I've always loved the ocean and kind of aquatic life from a young age, but I do like it because I kind of feel like that they're just what some of these stories talk about. This one kind of focuses more on like poverty and wealth because Iris comes from a very wealthy family and Selma does not come from a very wealthy family at all. She grew up very, very poor, and she grew up in a very deep, darker part of the ocean where there's a lot of poverty and there's a lot of crime and stuff going on. And she kind of has more of a backstory with, like, how she had to survive, how her family had to make money, and just kind of the circumstances she was in and kind of choices she had to make in order to survive that Iris doesn't currently know about because I'm not very far into this story yet. I've just written a couple chapters so far, with them going on a date, kind of going out to a restaurant together, and them getting to know each other still, because even though they're roommates, they still don't know each other very well, and that's kind of, where this dating kind of takes off with them getting to know each other. I really have enjoyed writing it so far. It's just been very, very complicated because since they live underwater, the dynamics are going to be a lot different with just, them swimming versus walking and, them breathing in water instead of air and having gills instead of lungs, and kind of some things that I typically wouldn't think about in some of my other stories I've been working on. Sometimes I don't feel like I know what I'm doing with some of these stories and if they're really very attention grabbing or not, but it's something that I like doing in my spare time. It's something that it gives me something else to focus on, really kind of tests my creativity. So I'm really kind of excited to see where the story goes. I'm still working on Days of Rain as well. I'm also trying to make another sequel to that one because I really enjoyed writing it, and I'm hoping that if anybody does ever take the time to read it, that it's something that they will enjoy. And there's just so much more explaining I have to do with some of the stuff that's going on with Morpheus and his system. So yeah, I have to make a sequel to that to explain more of what's going on with that. And, since the villains are returning, I didn't know if I wanted to give away, like, the ending to the first story or not, because you gotta read it if you want to know the ending. So, I don't want to just give it away because then that's gonna spoil it. So I can't really tell you about that for right now. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll make another video and I'll talk about it, but for right now, I don't want to let slip that detail yet. But I've really enjoyed my writing so far, and I'm hoping that as time goes on that these stories really start to unfold, because with in-depth still being so early on, there's just still so much more I still have to add to it. There's just so much more content I have to release. And then with Days of Rain, I feel like that there's already so much content. But it's really kind of tying those two stories together has been kind of tricky, because I had decided pretty early on that I was going to make another story to go with it to kind of parallel it, but it's still not quite the same as the sequel that I want to release to go with it. Because with Days of Rain has an actual sequel that goes to it, but this other story, it doesn't. It takes place in the same world as Days of Rain, but it's its own story, and it takes place like their world is divided based on the political issues that have been going on, and one side supports it and the other does not. And basically, in-depth is supposed to take place on the side that does not support the political issue that's going on. And with Days of Rain, they take place on the side that does support it, because there were these facilities that were created that were taking people prisoner and doing horrible experiments on them, and it became such a political issue that the whole, like, everything kind of became divided over it, because it became so political, because it was stuff that was going on with the humans. The humans were doing all of this to the supernatural creatures because they were envious of them. They were jealous of their powers, so they decided to take matters into their own hands and they wanted to make things, inventions to, magic for human benefit, so that, because the humans couldn't live as long, they weren't as powerful. So basically they became jealous and they tried to take things into their own hands, and while they may have had good intentions for their fellow humans, they didn't handle it properly, and things became very barbaric very quickly. And this activity does still continue on in the sequel to Days of Rain, which is also what I have to try to explain, how that stuff was, once the facilities were destroyed, how this activity continued underground and how it manifested. And the villains in the story are actually connected to what's going on with this barbaric activity. They were originally not believed to be connected to the activity that was going on, but, it's like one villain does something and then the other villain gets wind of it and is like, hey, that's a great idea, why don't I start doing that? And then they start just, like, going mad with power, because this particular villain, he just, he wanted to do everything he could to make himself more powerful. He just kept wanting to learn more magic and make himself basically invincible. And yeah, he's just pretty much unstoppable. He wanted to become, like, godlike in terms of power, because he just, he doesn't want to die. He wants to live forever. He's already, like, thousands of years old. So yeah, kind of a lot of stuff going on to try to explain, between however many stories, that hopefully as time goes on I can kind of, build the plot and explain all this stuff. So sorry if I'm rambling kind of a lot. I'm just really passionate about my writing, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to share it with you. So I just wanted to take a moment to do that. So I have Days of Rain up on Wattpad, and I also have In-Depth up on Wattpad for people to read if they are interested. Or if you want to know more, you can feel free to comment and ask me about it, and I'd be happy to go into more detail about it. But until next time, have a great day, guys.